What is up guys, Deadset here. The new season sees the split of the traditional Cold Harvester build into a new poisonous playstyle, but the Jade Harvester Witch Doctor remains a powerful and competitive build. Let me walk you through it. The strategy when using the Jade Witch Doctor is identical in both elemental variations of the build, Poison and Cold. You will begin the battle by casting Piranado to clump your enemies and apply the Piranha debuff to amplify the damage of the skills to follow. Cast a single Locust Swarm and as it spreads, start applying Haunt on the enemy until the combatants are affected. Then dive into the fray with Spirit Walk and activate a devastating Soul Harvest, consuming the active dots. Adjusting yourself to the short 16-yard range of Soul Harvest is an acquired skill, but once you do, enemies will be dead before they can react to your close proximity. In Greater Rifts, the enemies grow exceptionally tough, so protecting yourself with Horrify will also become part of the rotation. If you opt for Zombie Dog variation of the build, keep them active at all times to protect you through the lifelink rune. Always keep in mind that Soul Harvest does not consume the entire length of the dot, but a 30 seconds worth of it per cast. It will take you 5 Soul Harvests to deplete the dots, so manage your mana and avoid spamming. This is the build I use in the demonstration. Soul Harvest is the primary damage dealer of the build. While a utility skill by default, it takes on the role of a nuke with the 6-piece bonus of the Jade set, which allows you to consume the active dots on the enemies at once when you use Soul Harvest. Siphon is the preferred rune for the skill, providing a powerful source of healing to the generally frail Witch Doctor. There are 2 major dots to be consumed, out of 4 in total. Haunt is the strongest one, with an impressive 4000% weapon damage. Cheap with its 50 mana cost, lengthened by the Creeping Death passive and made immediate with the Jade set bonus, it's an obvious fit for the playstyle. A dedicated poison build emerges in the new patch with the Poison Spirit rune. While it might seem outright stronger at first glance, there are several notable drawbacks. As of the current patch, Poison Spirit does not apply the 20% damage increase to Haunt itself, and only to subsequent skills. It also requires you to cast twice as many Haunts to achieve the same dot spread as Resentful Spirit does. On the other hand, it synergizes well with the other poisonous skills on your bar. Stacking Poison helps the Gem of Efficacious Toxin and fits the new Season 2 Wormwood Staff. It's also a better choice in group play, since the damage buff affects the entire party. The old school Haunt choice is the Cold Rune Resentful Spirits, which releases 2 Haunts for the price of 1, speeding up your dot application and easing your mana management. Overall, both variations are deemed viable, and you could either improve your trash clear speed with Cold or bolster your single target and party utility with Poison. Second in the dot hierarchy is Locust Swarm, with respectable 1004 weapon damage and quick efficient spread through the Pestilence rune. Notice it is also affected by the Creeping Death passive, further amplifying its damage potential. While it applies a minor dot of its own and can be considered part of the Jade consumption, Piranhas is mostly used as an opener in fights for the Piranado crowd control and the innate damage increase against affected enemies. The good Piranha uptime is a major reason to pick the Strong Arm Bracers when gearing, and Bane of the Trapped for the legendary gems. To position for Soul Harvest, keep himself safe, and for general mobility purposes, the Jade Witch Doctor uses Spirit Walk. A versatile tool on a low cooldown, Spirit Walk makes you invulnerable, allows you to walk through enemies, and speeds you up for a generous 3-second period with the Jaunt rune. Completing the build with defensive utility, the Horrify crowd control helps when the tough enemies of Greater Rift progression survive your Soul Harvest rotation and swarm you, thirsting for vengeance. While the armor boost of Frightening Aspect remains a solid choice, past Greater Rift 45, experienced Witch Doctors abandon the toughness race and deviate into the Stalker rune, allowing for mobility and repositioning into a more favorable fight. A variation for this slot is to replace Horrify with Summon Zombie Dog's lifelink, if you do not yet have a strong 2-hander to complement the build, but have a Ucapian Serpent mojo and a good 1-hander like the Sunkeeper. This concludes the overview of the active skills. Now let us look through the passives. The pivotal passive of the Jade build is Creeping Death, which extends the duration of Haunt, Locust Swarm and the damage amplification of Piranhas from several seconds to 5 minutes. The Quetzalcoatl Helm shortens that duration to 2.5 minutes, effectively doubling the damage of your dot skills upon the Soul Harvest consumption. It is important to understand that despite the Jade set tooltip, you will not consume the entire duration of the dots lengthened by Creeping Death, but a limited 30 seconds worth of dot damage. Because of that, speeding up the damage dealt by using a Quetzalcoatl Helm is critical for the build. Grave Injustice is an elegant source of cooldown reduction, synergizing with the bursty nature of the Jade Harvester playstyle. For each enemy killed in a 20-yard radius of the Witch Doctor, it not only reduces your cooldowns by a second, but also replenishes your health and mana reserves by 1%. Take notice of the pickup radius synergy and try to obtain that stat in the secondaries of your gear. Or if you play a one-handed setup with a Sunkeeper, try and synergize with a Thing of the Deep. Spirit Vessel is a 2-in-1 passive that both reduces the cooldowns of many of your active skills and gives you a cheat death failsafe, while its 90-second cooldown is steeper than most of its counterparts for other classes. Consider its additional utility and never pass it up. 2 passives can occupy the last slot. The additive Pierce the Veil is easier to play with, providing you with a guaranteed 20% damage bonus at the cost of 30% increase in mana costs, which is arguably not a concern when you learn to control the spec and not spam redundant haunts. On the other hand, we have the multiplicative Gruesome Feast, which grants you a 10% increase of mana and intelligence when you're healed by a health globe, stacking up to 5 times. While this passive is stronger as early as the second stack, the globe pickup requirement can prove dangerous or outright impossible to keep up in high greater rifts. It is advisable to play around with both passives and pick whichever fits your playstyle the most. That about covers it for the build. Now let us go over the items. While some variation can be found in slots such as Belt, Bracer and Amulet, a lot of the Jade Harvester gear is set in stone. Attaining the 6-piece Jade Harvester bonus through 5 of the pieces, along with the Quetzalcoatl Helm and a Ring of Royal Grandeur, is mandatory. Cooldown reduction is important for the Jade Witch Doctor, and it is advisable to get it on the Jade Gloves, where it accompanies the crit stats, as well as on the Jade Shoulder. The latter will also provide you with skill damage, as Haunt percentage can be rolled on both the Jade Shoulder and the Jade Chest. The Jade Pants and Boots remain pure toughness slots, prioritizing high vitality and armor. Note that stacking armor benefits you because of the balancing of sources of mitigation, as all resistance is already abundant on an intelligence-based character. The Quetzalcoatl Voodoo Mask is a key piece that doubles the pace of your Haunt and Locust Swarm dots, ties into the Creeping Death passive bonus and produces the signature Jade Burst. While the Jade Helm can be temporarily used to complete the set bonus, you should actively seek and gamble for the endgame helm of the build, the Quetzalcoatl. Naturally, to complete your set bonus, you'll have to take advantage of a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Obtained through Act 1 cash rewards, it will reduce the number of items needed for set bonuses by 1. Your second ring can be either a Unity for the damage reduction when paired with another on the follower, plus an immortality item, or the Daredevil option of a Stone of Jordan. While the latter will provide you with substantially more damage, it will guarantee that almost any hit taken in high greater rifts will result in your death. Needless to say, both rings you wear need to be socketed for legendary gems. To finish off the jewelry, aim for as good of an elemental amulet as you can. The ideal rolls are crit chance, crit damage, an open socket, and elemental damage, either poison or cold for your variation of choice. The better of an amulet you get with these stats, the more strategies you can implement. For example, a Raykov's Glass of Life spawns more health globes to fuel your gruesome feast. An Eye of Etlich will reduce deadly ranged shots coming from outside your Horrify range, or a well-crafted Hellfire amulet will allow you to take a free 5th passive. Immunity necks are also universally desired. The Bracer slot is best taken by Strong Arm Bracers, whose crowd control requirement is fulfilled by the Piranado. While this is your only way to proc the Strong Arm boost, Piranha is available on a short cooldown and justifies the gear slot. The belt has several options available. Similarly to the Firebird Wizard, the Jade Witch Doctor will produce the highest damage through the Witching Hour, the only belt that rolls crit damage. The downside of this belt is a wasted attack speed stat, which does not affect the dot tick rate. A strong alternative is the Vigilante belt, the only option for this slot that rolls cooldown reduction, which is a stat that Jade Doctors quickly grow fond of. Other notable belts include the String of Years for the damage reduction, the Blackthorn belt for a combination with a Blackthorn amulet, and the exotic Wash Wrap. The best slot weapon for the Jade Doctor is the Furnace, the strongest generic two-handed weapon in the game. With its high two-hander damage range and rolling up to 50% additional elite damage as a free 5th affix, it is an irreplaceable boost in Greater Rifts, where elite and Rift Guardian fights will take up a significant portion of your time. Two-handed weapons are preferred for higher dot damage, and weaker but more common alternatives to the Furnace include Wrath of the Bone King for the cold variation of the build, and the Wormwood for the poison. More notably, the Wormwood allows you to remove Locust Swarm for a skill of your choosing, for example, Mass Confusion with Paranoia. A one-handed setup, preferably with a Sunkeeper for the elite damage bonuses, is also an option, prior to obtaining the Furnace. Paired up with mojos like Thing of the Deep for Grave Injustice and Gruesome Feast synergy, or Uncapian Serpent for a Zombie Dogs variation of the build, are all viable. Your 3 jewelry sockets will be taken up by the legendary gems Bane of the Trapped, Gem of Efficacious Toxin, and either Bane of the Powerful if you're confident in your clearing speed, or Gogok of Swiftness if you want to improve the uptime of important cooldowns in high Greater Rifts. Bane of the Trapped is a potent source of additional damage, as it is its own multiplier in your total damage calculation. The Gem of Efficacious Toxin synergizes nicely with the dot consumption of the build, helps out in groups, and scales even better if you go for the poison variation of the build. Bane of the Powerful is a popular choice as the 3rd gem. It remains valuable as long as you clear with a speed that keeps its secondary bonus active, but tends to fall off during the prolonged Rift Guardian fights. The Gogok of Swiftness is a strong alternative. Your active skills will easily keep it stacked, and in return it will assist you with life-saving cooldown reduction. In the Paragon points, max out movement speed and spend the rest on intelligence in the core section, prioritize cooldown reduction and then crit damage and crit chance in the offense, life percentage, armor and then all resistance in defense, and area damage, resource cost reduction, and then life on hit in utility. And this is it for the Jade Witch Doctor build. I hope you enjoyed the guide, and if you did, I would appreciate your subscription to my channel. See me live at twitch.tv/thedeadset, talk to me on Twitter and Facebook that I linked below, and I'll see you guys next time.